I am Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I want to welcome you to Flexibility and Function. This is our first class of our 8-week series, created and led by Tyler Ferguson. We hope that you're going to gain some flexibility and have fun doing it. Flexibility and function will take some work, and Tyler will talk more about that in a minute, but any work that you do on flexibility and function contribute to the success, if I can say that maybe, the success of other physical activities that you take on. Sometimes slow and controlled movement is more challenging and can be more beneficial than a quick one. AARP Missouri believes that offering classes like this gives more people a chance to participate. For some of you, it may be more convenient, like if you're a caregiver, for instance, and you may be watching this on our YouTube channel so you can participate when it's convenient for you. However and whyever you participate, we are glad to have you and hope that this helps to enhance your commitment to a healthy, active living lifestyle. This class is a great foundational class, and you can find many of our previous fitness classes on Missouri. Is at youtube.com/C/AARPMO. Our class is suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not try to go beyond what you know is right for you. Check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, about education, technology information, as well as our upcoming activities on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. We have lots of activities going on and volunteer opportunities where you can make a difference in your life or your community, or both. There are options to volunteer virtually or in person, volunteer regularly or once in a while. Please check our website at aarp.org/mo to find out more. Now I'm going to turn it over to get us started for real. Our instructor is Tyler Ferguson. Tyler, let the fun begin.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you. We'll get started right away. So if you are comfortable with bare feet, go ahead and remove your shoes and your socks now and practice in your bare feet. Now, if there's a neuroma or neuropathy or a reason why you need to wear shoes, that's fine. That's okay. But if you can go bare feet, do. And do them bare too. So I know it might feel good to leave your socks on to keep your tootsies warm, but I don't want you to slip doing some of the activities that we do. So it's safer just to get the sticky pads of your feet. You also get more neurological feedback when your skin is touching a surface, so you're getting more information in the brain. So let's just begin by standing. All right, let's unpack this standing thing for a moment. Feet are hips distance apart, and you want your toes to sort of track forward. Look down for a second and notice if you tend to duck out at your feet, which is really common sometimes. And that could be due to a tightness or an overuse pattern. But see if you can orient your toes forward, look down, maybe even the big toes come in the slightest bit so that that outside edge of both feet is more parallel with the walls on either side of you, or if you're working on a mat, the edges of your mat. Now, sometimes this can be uncomfortable, so you need to practice this forward motion with the toes to your degree of comfort. First thing I want you to do is notice how it feels in your knees. If you're locking out your knees and getting your stability by stacking your joints, see if you can just soften your knees a little bit. You're not slouching, you're just softening in the knees. That already might give you a little bit of relief. And then here's what we're going to practice. There's a mound under your big toe. Feel that press into the floor. There's a mound back behind your piggy toe. Feel that. And then feel the heel of both feet. And drawing that triangle in both feet, can you feel the weight evenly distributed in all of those points of contact? So notice, are you more in your toes and your heel is lifted? Are you more in your heel or your toes are lifted? Or do you roll into the inside or outside edges of your feet? So with that awareness of those points of contact, can you resolve and distribute the weight evenly? And then moving up the feet, soften the knees like we said. And you might have to remind yourself, oh yeah, I'm getting stability locking out. I got to soften. Oh yeah, I got to soften. I'm going to keep reminding you that. Then we're going to move up to the hips. So we all suffer from sitting a lot. So we have tight hip flexors. Our hips are often in flexion. Look at me. Even when I stand, you can see my hips are still in a little bit of flexion. So right now, take the front of your hips, start to find extension. So you're going to push the hips slightly forward in space. Notice my spine isn't doing anything to make that happen, just my hips. I didn't lock out my knees to get there. And then start to turn on your glutes, your rear end flesh, your gluteus maximus muscle, to feel that extension in the hips. Now I'm going to give you cues all during class. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your glutes, squeeze your glutes. If you're squeezing them as hard as you can, you don't have to do it more. If I keep saying it, it's just a reminder. But notice that extension in the hips, how good that feels with the support of your glutes. And then stacking up the body, bring your shoulders right over your hips. And then the final piece of the puzzle that's really important, as we keyboard or watch TV or go to the show, we start to have this chin forward pattern in our body. So can you pull your chin back in and feel length in the back of your spine? And if you go away with anything from class today, as you're driving, as you're at the computer, keep remembering chin in, back of the neck, nice and long. That's going to help you notice if my chin goes forward, how much compression I have in the cervical spine. So keep that cervical spine nice and long. That's our starting spot. Chin in, spine long, activation in the body. Take your right ear, bring it down to your right shoulder. Doesn't have to touch, just take it toward that direction. All right, and then your opposite side, the ear that's away, just push that shoulder down to the floor. You might even flex your wrist, and you'll notice that creates a little bit more sensation in the stretch. And then that jaw on the opposite side, gently pull it up toward the ceiling and breathe. That's important. I'm going to remind you to breathe. One more inhale. On your exhale, chin down, bend your knees. Let's find that on the other side. Opposite ear to the shoulder. And then that distance, that space that you create, begin to notice it. Pull the shoulder down in the way, and you might even flex the hand and push through the palm more. That creates more sensation. Or find that jaw and pull up and away. One more time. Chin down and down, or chin down and in. Switch sides. Find those activations. Go back to your feet, knees, hips, and then chin down. Switch it back. And then chin down, back to the beginning. Good stuff. All right. Let's bring the arms up so that the wrists are in line with the shoulders here. And if you're working with a shoulder injury and this isn't comfortable for you, maybe pick a spot, maybe a little more in front of the body, pick something that works for you. And then I want you to try to do this. Think about your humerus head. Can you plug it in, not up, but can you plug your humerus head in? So your shoulder blades come together, just a little bit, don't overdo it. But then from your elbow to your fingers, can you straighten that out? Sometimes we have a little bit of tightness in the biceps and it's hard to straighten out the arms. Good. And then start to find some circles. So just forward little circles. Good. And then notice if your circles are punchy or bumpy, or you speed up or slow down, try to smooth those out while bringing the shoulder blades actively toward one another, but reaching through the fingers. And breathe. Pause. Take your circles in the other direction. So we're just warming up, moving a little lymph through the system. And then if you want to work a little bit harder, remember, go back to those glutes, turn them on, send the hips forward. Pretend like you have a beach ball between your upper thighs. Start to squeeze the beach ball together. Good. And then bring your arms across your body. We're going to do 3 versions of spinal lateral flexion. The first version keeps your arms out of it. Pull, oh, I forgot to give you a cue in your mountain. You keep your arms here. No, put your hands here. The other thing we want to do when the hips go forward and we're stacking our shoulders is if you put your thumbs on the bottom of your ribs and on your hips, as gravity starts to crunch us and move us forward, the space between the bottoms and the ribs gets smaller, right? So what I want you to do is lengthen up through the spine, create more space between the bottom and the ribs and the hips. All right, I forgot that little cue in your posture. Now, same thing here. Cross your arms, create space between the bottom of the ribs and the hips, lift and lengthen, and then just bend over to one side. And then notice, now my hips didn't move. I didn't off balance with my hips moving. I kept my hips right where they were. I bent up and over the hips. Breathe into the rib that's extended. And then come back up to center. Lift and lengthen. And like you're going up and over a beach ball, come to the other side. And just move to the distance that feels good in your body, that you feel some stretch or sensation. Breathe. And come back up to center. Now, you can stay right there, or you can bring your arms overhead. And you might bind at the elbows and really squish this in, or if that doesn't feel great in your shoulders, you can make this wider. Now we're making the lever a little longer, so there's going to be a little bit more weight in this exercise. Lift and lengthen and come up and over. And you'll notice there's a little bit more of a challenge in your core here. That's work for you. Go back to this. That's your option. Yeah, we're all in different places in our workout. Come back up to center. Lift and lengthen through the trunk. Exhale over to the other side. And we need to meet ourselves with compassion. We're in different places in our journey, and I want to provide you options so you all can feel like we're taking this journey together. And then bring yourself back up to center. I'm going to give you a final option, but I'm going to warn you, this is tough if you have any shoulder injury, but you would, I'm just going to kneel for a second. You would just take your hands up overhead, and then notice you're kind of hugging the biceps to the ears. Now, this is tough for any shoulder injuries, but it is an option. Lift and lengthen, and then you can come over to the side. Now, you're going to know right away if this isn't best for your shoulders. If it isn't, please take another option. I never want you to grind through a movement because you think you need to do it or you should be doing it. Come back up to center, lift and lengthen over to the other side. So on your PDF that you'll get after class, this is your lateral spinal flexion. You have 3 different ways to achieve this lateral flexion. Come back up to center, release the arms. Now for our next upper body, you can shake out your hands. For our next upper body movement, you're gonna have the lower body work a little bit. So you're gonna come into chair pose. Take the tips of your fingers, push them into your hips, and push your seat back behind your heels, and then just start to sit down like you're going in a chair. Now we're all gonna lower to different heights. It doesn't matter. Go to a place where you feel like you can work, where it feels sustainable in your body. Reach your fingertips forward and feel your shoulder blades separate from one another. You're going to move away from one another and sort of wrap around the ribs. That's your pushing motion. Now bend the elbows back, but do it at the, feel it from the shoulder blades. So squeeze shoulder blades together. So there's a relationship between the elbows going back and sort of up and the shoulder blades coming together. And then reach and push. So we're trying to get the blades to glide along the backside of the body. And the more mobility you have, the more movement and glide you have in your shoulder blades, the better overall arm and shoulder function you're going to have. Good. So reach, shoulder blades separate, pull. These are functional movements, reaching and pulling. Final time. If you're tired, you can stand up, right? You don't have to stay in chair. Go ahead and reach your arms forward. Now turn your hands back and pretend like you're pushing into the ground. And you'll notice your back slightly rounds in the upper back. That's a push-up. That's a plank. You want to feel that in your body if you're ever doing a push-up in a plank. Now, bend the elbows, lift your heart, bring your hands up here. If you're ever doing upward facing dog, cow pose, locust pose in yoga, shoulder blades are together, spine is long. Go ahead and stand up here. One more activation. Arms out wide. Point the fingers down. So I want you to feel this at the wrists. We're going to be on our wrists a little bit today. And then draw the knuckles back up towards your ears. Push through your palms like you're Spider-Man trying to make webs. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then fingers down. So we're just activating the forearms a little bit. Draw it back. Final time, and then we are going to make our way over to a wall, which I forgot to say before class. So if you can make your way to a wall, if you can find one in your house, that's great. A countertop will work. So if you're near the kitchen or a counter will work. And for some of you, the best option for you might be a chair. That'll work too. I'm going to show you all the options here. We're going to strengthen the muscles of our feet and our ankles by doing a little shin raise. You're going to put your seat against the counter of the wall, and then your feet are about a foot, whatever distance you choose from the wall. Now, we don't soften our knees here. Here's one of the few times you do straighten out the legs. You want the work to transfer all the way up the hips. You're going to hinge in the hips. You're not rounding at the back. You're hinging at the hips. Plant your hands on your thighs, and then you're going to lift your toes and the bottom of your foot, your heels drive into the ground. Lift and lower. As you lift your toes, you're going to feel the flesh of your seat just slide up the wall. Oh, I don't know, a half an inch or something like that. If you don't have a wall, you can just sit down in a chair, put some weight on the thighs, and just lift and lower here. So I'm lifting my toes, the ball of the feet, the arch, everything I lift, and I'm going to get right on the heels. Here's what we're looking for. Keep lifting and lowering. For some of you, after about 10, you're going to feel that little bit of a burn. Maybe for others, after 15 reps, you're going to feel the burn. We're looking for 15 to 25 reps here. When you start to feel that little bit of burn or that muscle really activate, see if you can't just get just a few more reps in once you really begin to feel the work. And remember, we're not working to pain. We're just working to a little bit of discomfort. So really own the difference between pain and discomfort here. The other thing is, if you're racing through it as fast as you can, try to slow it down and really feel that anterior tibialis shin muscle working. 5, 4, don't bend at the knees, you lose your energy there. 3, you want the weight to transfer all the way up to leg 1, 2, and 1. Now, if you've chosen to stop earlier, it's fine, that's okay. We're all in different spots. Now we're just going to turn around and meet that with the opposite side of the leg bone, with the calf muscle. So you're going to come to your wall, lean into the wall a little bit. What did we just learn about pushing away? You could round your back a little bit here. And then nice, slow and controlled movements. Lift your heels up off the floor and lower them back down. Now, again, you can do this from the chair, right? Just like we sat and leaned on our shins, now you can lift your heels in the chair. If you're taking the wall option or even the chair option, pause at the top, really feel your calf muscles engage, your hamstrings, your glutes, and then lower back down. And then the same thing, meet yourself where you are. When you start to feel a little burn, a little fatigue, maybe ask yourself to do 2 or 3 or 4 more. If you're not feeling the burn yet, keep working slow and methodically, keep things pulling in. So right now, notice what your belly button or your low belly is doing. Are you engaged there? Can you draw your navel in towards your spine and ask your core musculature to help you with this lifting motion? Or maybe you work in your breath. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower down. Meet yourself where you are. Take a break when it's time for you to take a break. If you didn't get enough reps in class today, you're going to have a PDF. You'll have a reminder to do this. You can do this in every other day until we meet again. You're going to get stronger. Trust me, you're going to get stronger if you do reps of these. Let's just do a couple more. Remember, back off when it's time for you to back off. Keep going. I'm feeling it. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling it. I do these every other day. And good. We'll come back down to the floor. All right. So like I said, if you want to keep practicing those and getting stronger, you can do sets of 2 or sets of 3. And please visit them before we meet each other again next week. Okay. Forgot to do one thing, so we'll do it right now. Start just swinging your arms and feel rotation in your chest. So you want to try to move your arms in what we call the sagittal plane. So if I were in a swimming lane right now, and the lane was very, very narrow, I don't want my arms to go outside of that swim lane. I want to just move in this forward and back orientation, but feel the ribs rotating as you swing. So the rotation that you're going to feel is when the right hand goes back, the right rib rotates to the right wall, left arm goes back, left rib rotates, right rib follows. So just feel that in your own body. Keep your eye gaze forward. Those people that I see on the screen, most everybody's looking forward. That's great. So this is part of your walking gait. Okay, so when you're walking, you want to have this rotation in your upper body. You want to have this freedom. Okay, so we want to free up the ribs, we want to free up the shoulder blades. All of that is important in your walking gait. And we'll come to a stop. So that's something that you can work on your own too. We're going to make our way down to the floor, everyone. So however you need to make your way down to the floor, go ahead and come down. If you have a mat to work on, that can feel pretty good. Gonna move back a little bit. And then once you get down here, any kind of padding that you might want for your knees is a great idea. So even if you don't have it this week, or if you look around, you see a throw pillow or a cushion, you might bring it in for padding under the knees. I'm going to give you some pointers on how to feel less pressure in your knees. A really great little trick is you can go to like a discount store and they have these gardening things, like pads for when you're gardening. So if you can pick some of those up inexpensively, they can be really nice to pad the knees. And then the last thing is I use yoga blocks, but you don't have to use yoga blocks. Books, dictionaries, even a sturdy box could work today in place of a yoga block. I won't cue it a lot because I know all of you don't have them, but I want to show you how they work in today's workout. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is come to a tabletop shape. And the construction of your tabletop is really important. It's important that your knees fall below your hips, just like they did when we stand. If your knees are together like this, your base of support isn't going to be as strong. So get those knees right under the hips. And then the wrists want to be either underneath the shoulder or just a little bit in front of the shoulder. And then spread fingers wide like you're palming a basketball. And then let's just ask the hips and the shoulders to work together a little bit. So this is called rock back. So we're getting the hips and the shoulders to move in a little flexion and extension, back and forth. Good. Now, if your wrists hate this and they're protesting, you can make fists for wrists, that's fine. If you had dumbbells, you can hold on to dumbbells and use those. If you're using your thumb as a kickstand, please don't do that. Your thumb isn't a super stable joint, so it's not a really good idea. Another option is to get that book or that dictionary, just come on down to your forearms, just to get off your wrists a little bit. And then over time, you can build up strength in your wrists. Okay. Now, take a rest, however you need to take a rest. But let's talk about our shins for a second. So for a lot of people, we're pretty tight in that anterior tibialis, and it's hard to get our shins on the ground. But the ability to plantar flex our ankles or point our toes is important. So as much as you can get your shin bone on the ground, try to do that right now. All right, cool. And if you're looking at the screen and you're feeling a crank in your neck, look down at the mat, look in between your fingers, pull your chin in and feel length in the back of your neck, and then draw your navel into your spine. From here, maybe you look at the screen, maybe not. Take the right leg and just send it back so your toes are down just for a second, and then float your right leg up in the air. And notice how much work that feels like. So we're going to unpack that for a second. Bring your right knee back down on the ground and listen. We're still going to work the right leg, but what I want you to do is press into the left shin. Really, really hard. Left shin goes in the ground. Notice how your core turns on when you press your shin into the ground. Press the mat away, like that pressing motion. Shoulder blades move apart. Shin is in. Now send your right leg long. Feel how much more connected you are to the earth when you're grounding through the other points of contact. Good. Now, our spine has been moved up. We're not moving through our back. We're just moving through the hip joint. Pull your knee under your belly button and then push the leg back long. So notice sometimes in a yoga class we do this, but we round our spine, but we're not doing that right now. We're stabilizing our spine. We're using muscles of the core to keep the spine stable, and we're only moving through the hip knee and ankle joints here. Good. Knee comes in, exhale it long, one more time. Inhale, knee in, exhale, extension through the leg, knee comes down to the earth, come off your wrists. You can either rest on the blocks right here, or if you want to find a little bit more flexion, come into what we call child's pose. Take some pressure off those joints for a second. And this feels kind of tough coming out of the gate. You build up strength quickly. Okay, we're going to find all of that stuff on the other side. So pull yourself back up into your tabletop shape. Now, we're going to work the left leg now. So it's the right shin that presses into the earth, hands press away, shoulder blades separate, belly button comes in, send that left leg long. Good. Now, can you work through your core? Can you feel the tissues of the core pulling in to support the length in this leg? And then draw the knee in and push that leg away. Again, try not to move in the spine and let movement of the spine dictate how far you pull your knee in. In other words, I can pull in more if I do that. That's not the exercise, right? I'm just trying to find my range of motion while maintaining some stability in my spine. This is a spinal strengthening exercise. Knee comes in, leg reaches long one final time, and release. Come up off those wrists if you want. Actually, you can bring your hips over if that feels okay in your body. Shake out your wrists, find some circles, any movements. We're going to go back down to our wrists again. So use those modifications, fists, weights, blocks, elbows. You don't even need you don't need blocks to come down on your elbows. It just elevates you a little bit more when you do. Okay. Now, this next activity is a side plank, a modification of a side plank. That's a spinal stabilizer on the side. So whatever leg is furthest from the camera, or furthest from the direction you're looking right now, I want you to pivot that leg off the mat a little bit. So notice the knee stays, the leg just pivots. Okay, now look down. The leg that just pivoted, you got a line at the wrist to the knee. Other hand comes off the mat, you can use it for stability. And then take the opposite leg and create a line. Okay, now that hand that isn't on the mat, I'm going to switch it and show it to you on this side. That hand that isn't on the mat, grab your rib cage and find rotation in the rib cage. So this is about the ribs. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to stack shoulders on top of one another and hips on top of one another. So this is a variation of a side plank. That shin can pivot any way it needs to stabilize me in the floor. I have a really short lever that I'm working with here. Now squeeze the rear glute to open up that hip. And then this shoulder is down away from the ear. So nice little modified side plank. You can reach your arm up if your shoulder feels healthy. You can float your leg if that feels healthy. That's probably a lot of work. No need to do that. Just keep it down. Modified side plank. We're going to work our way up to a side plank by week 8. Come on out of this. Get off your wrist. Shake it out. And set it up on the other side. So I'm going to put my back to you this side because I'm going to switch sides. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set it up. The new side that we're working on, we're going to pivot that leg. Put the weight into the hand of the same side where the leg pivoted. Take the opposite leg, find that line. So it's a line between the wrist, the knee, and the back ankle. Grab the ribs, find rotation, and start to play with your side plank here. You might feel your core muscles and where the obliques are on the side body are lifting a little bit here. And if you notice, this hip is collapsing, right? Like you're trying to sit down. Can you extend through the hip and squeeze your glute? Good. Bring your left hand back down to the mat. How are we doing on time here? Oh, perfect. Good. Now we're going to come up to a lunge. So this is where a chair or something that you can hold on to could be comfortable. It's not necessary, but you want to come up and do a lunge shape, 90-90 lunge. So if you have books or blocks, You can do that. Not completely necessary. And then ultimately we come to a pose called proposal pose. So for obvious reasons, maybe hands are on that front knee, but here's what we're looking for. About a 90-degree bend in the knee, a 90-degree bend at the hip, and your front ankle is under the front knee. So a lot of you, if you're lacking a little bit of hip mobility, you might be doing something that looks like this. So look down at yourself. Can you pick up this foot and get that ankle under the knee? And then if so, you might feel pressure in this back knee. So that's where you bring in the pillow or the pads. Or if you have that mobility, you push into the shin a little bit more. You push into the top of the foot more. That'll take the pressure off your knee. All right, so now your pelvis, you want to pretend like you have a tail. All right, and you want to take your tail and take it down towards the mat. And you'll already feel some sensation or stretch in the thigh of the knee that's down. Support that sensation by turning on or squeezing the glute of the knee that's down. And then create that space in the long torso. It probably feels like a lot of work. You want to come out of it? Let's just come out of it for a second. Yeah? You can just rest right here, because I do want to go back up and give you one more activation. If you're loving it, stay there. That's fine. Yeah, big stretch. So let's go ahead, push back up to proposal pose, neutralize the spine, send your tail down, walk this front toe forward an inch, and then energetically drag your foot back towards the body. Now notice, my foot didn't move, but if you feel your hamstring, woo, doggies, it's lit up, right? Feel the hamstring working? Now drag your back knee towards the foot. You feel all this stability in the upper body. If somebody tried to push you over, it's not happening. Reach your arms up, lift and lengthen, but ground through that back shin, pull it all together, and release and come out of it. Nice work. Hands can go on blocks, hooks, anything to support you back in your tabletop. Good. Give your hips a little wiggle. We'll try that on the other side. Other leg comes forward, and then again, if some of that hip mobility is lacking and you get here, be aware of that. Assist yourself so you can come into this 90-90 shape. Also, if you're on a tightrope, right, this is hard to balance. So create more of a railroad track situation in your body. This is going to be a lot easier to sustain if you're struggling with your balance. All right, shoulders over hips, hands on the top of the knee. Press into that back shin, send your tail nice and long and start to turn on that rear glute. That in itself is going to open up your hip flexor, something that gets shortened over time as you sit still or as you sit or lie. And it's going to help you find some length in the quad, right? Play around with that. If you need to take a break and come out of it, just hinge at the hips, give yourself a break for a second. Now we're going to go into that hamstring activation. And that hamstring activation is everything. We're going to use it in all kinds of different orientations. So that idea of that energetic pull, it's an isometric pull, but it's active. And we're strengthening our muscles just by being still. Come back up into that lunge, turn on your glute, take your tail long, walk your toes forward an inch, and then energetically drag your heel, your whole foot back towards your body as your shin and knee pull toward the heel. Feel all that stability in the hips, feel your glutes turn on, and then lift and lengthen through the spine. Good. Yeah, keep activating, keep squeezing, maybe palpate, feel that front hamstring that it's turned on. Inhale it up and exhale it back down to the ground. Okay, we're going to make our way to our backside, but you can spend a moment taking a look at the camera. Maybe the easiest way to get there is to come back onto your knees and then find your hips on the ground, swing your feet around. Now, I'm going to demo this. So if you can be on your back and still see your screen okay, great. If you want to sit up before you go down, consider that too. And then the easiest way to get on the back is to come to your side body and then make your way down to your back, bring your knees back up. Okay, so we're just going to work on glute bridges here. The most important thing about a glute bridge, though, is as soon as your hips go up, now you've got a little bit more pressure on your spine. That is not the time to look up at the screen and see what's going on. Okay, so if you need to look around or lift your head, get your hips back down and then look at the screen and see what's going on. All right, everybody come down to your bridge shape. Your knees are bent and your feet are on the ground, hands down along the side, palms down, thumbs are in. Lift and spread your toes. Make sure you have those points of contact on the mat. And then lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Now pretend there's a beach ball between your inner thighs, and I'm trying to come into your house and steal that beach ball. Give it a little squeeze, don't let me steal it, good. And then keep driving through the heels, and then turn on your glutes a little bit to open up the front of your hips. And then notice what your feet are doing. Are your toes curling, or you're on the edges of your feet? See if you can relax your feet, and then lower your hips back down to the ground. Give it a little kiss, and press back up. Nice and slow and control. Squeeze and hold at the top, lower it back down. So I'm going to take you through 10 of these. This is number 9 right here. But you need to make your own choice. How many of these are good for you? But I can't emphasize enough that by moving nice and slow and controlled, that is your opportunity to notice areas of weakness, any areas where you might be sticking in your movement, and have an opportunity to smooth that out. Sometimes we get the idea that if we move really fast through stuff, we're working harder, and sometimes that's not true at all. Good, so keep pressing up. Notice if you're curling or trying to get extra work from your feet. Keep your feet relaxed, keep your head relaxed. Just work on lifting your glutes. If any of you, I teach a class very similar to this in our local YMCA, and every single time I get a new person in class, they're like, oh, this is the stuff I do in my physical exercise. Yep, so I call this prehab, right? Instead of getting injured and going and being assigned these movements, just do them every day, right? Or every other day, or just make them a part of your workout routine. You've already got it mapped out in your body, you know how to activate, and then hopefully you can avoid any trouble. Okay, honestly, I didn't count. My apologies. I'm sorry. So let's pretend like we're done with those glute bridges. Take a look at the screen for a second. This is the exercise that's more important to me than any other exercise. We're still going to be in this orientation, but notice my arms are down like at a 45 degrees to the front of the room. And take a look, please, before you do it with me. Here's what I want. Oh, now take your legs long. This is where we are. Yep. Take your legs long if that feels comfortable in the low back. If the low back is complaining right now, go ahead and rebend your knees a little bit. Otherwise, legs go long, chin goes in, and give me a look for a second here. Watch what I'm going to do with my head. I'm going to hover it up above the back. Can you see? I can fit my hand under my head, but I am not rounding and straining my cervical spine. Chin is in, I'm floating my head the tiniest amount above the floor, but there is a little bit of space. So that's what we're going to do. Get long, take your chin in, and then float and hover your head the slightest amount. Keep the back of your neck long, the chin in, and start to feel the core stabilizing muscles that you're used in lifting your head, and then lower your head back down to the ground. Now, if you felt strain in your neck, try to keep using that chin in, back of the neck long principle, and be careful not to round. Let's try that again. Float the head up off the ground. Cultivate the idea of doing less here. Less is more. Can you just float? And then can you use your core to keep that head floating over the ground? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. So this again is a spine strengthening exercise. We're strengthening the front of the spine. If it feels good to you, one more time, chin in, back of the neck is long, float the head up above the mat. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, head down. Now we're going to bend our knees and we're going to go into the exercise that I'm most excited about teaching you. We're going to break it down over the course of 8 weeks, but here's week 1. Arms are down to the side at a 45-degree angle. We're going to take our right arm, bend it at the elbow, reach up towards the ceiling, then reach across our body as if somebody's standing off to the side of our left leg. You're going to peel up your right shoulder and your head, and you're going to reach as far as you can, but not any further. Feel your oblique muscles working, then bring your shoulder and head back down, elbow back down. Bring your elbow off the ground, reach the fingertips to the sky, and across your body to that person standing outside your left foot, reach, and then come back down. I want you to do 5 of those. And I want you to only reach as far as you can go. I don't want you to feel any need to go any higher or any further than what feels okay in your body. And if your neck is a little sore from that next exercise, you might reach your arm across, pull your shoulder, and then you might not. So just work in a range that works for you. After you've gotten 5 sides on one, 5 times on one side, you're gonna switch and do it on the other. Now, look up here for a second. If you're jerking like this in an attempt to get further, that's not the goal. How high or far you lift is not the goal. The goal is to understand your end range while staying connected to the exercise. So you want these to be smooth lifts, something that you can connect to and you have control over. And if that means the only thing that happens is your arm reaches across and you get a little bit of shoulder and that's it, that's where I want you to work today. You're going to get more benefit from that exercise. And we're going to come on to this in a few weeks. But right now, I just want you to map out that exercise, and you should feel a little bit of work in your oblique, those superficial core muscles that help you rotate. I have one more exercise for you all, okay? So back down to your back, take your knees over to the side, the arm that's on top, press yourself up, and then just pause for a second because you might be a little dizzy. Right? The blood is kind of distributed differently throughout the body when you're laying down on your back. So come on up, let the blood flow for a second. Notice if you have a little low blood pressure like I do. I'm always dizzy when I get up. But I would like to finish class standing. So however you want to make your way to a standing posture, however that works for you, go ahead and bring yourself to a standing posture. Now, it's nice to use a chair or a wall for this last exercise. So I'll demonstrate it, how you would use the wall. So you're not going to face the wall on this one. And by wall, a countertop works, but you're going to work to the side. But you don't want to lean, you want to be upright. So get close enough where you can be really upright in your body. I'm not going to use the wall any longer because I want you to see myself this way. We'll pretend I'm holding on. And then you want to just step 1 foot back. But the goal here is the plant leg, the front leg, you want all the weight to be in that leg. So, I mean, I could theoretically, all the weight is in my front leg, right? But I'm not going to ask you to balance the whole time. That's a big ask. So if you just put your toe down, it's a kickstand, but you haven't shifted the weight into your back leg at all. Now, the front leg, it's not locked out, okay? You have that soft bend in the knee. So hands can go on the hips or to keep that one hand on the wall, lift and lengthen the spine, and then flat back, hinge at your hips, start to load that leg a little bit more. You might feel the hamstring and the quad working. You don't have to go as low as I do, just go wherever you want to go. Now hinge back up by pushing down through the heel. And then the leg that's forward, squeeze that glute to come back up to the top, and then reload. These are single leg deadlifts, load, press up. So we're doing some asymmetrical work, just working on one leg at a time here. I'm looking at the screen, I'm a little out of alignment. So your eye gaze is going to go down to the floor. If you're looking at the screen, hopefully you've mapped out the exercise. Get your neck more into alignment. And as you're lowering and hinging back up, you're probably feeling your hamstring, maybe your quad, maybe your glute talk to you a little bit. So maybe 5 of these, 6, 8 of these. And then again, I do these a lot, so I can hinge a little bit lower. So I just want you to hinge where you feel activation, where it's working for you. and come right back up. Okay, I'm gonna coach you through one more. We're gonna switch sides. All right, so are you still loaded in that front leg? Give yourself a little test. That's where the load is. And then let's switch it out. Woo, maybe wiggle a little bit. I know we're running over, that happens, but I've got 45 minutes worth of stuff planned, so we're gonna do it. Opposite leg goes forward, soft bend in the knee. Send your shoulders forward to load that leg. Hold on to a ball, a wall or a chair for balance, and create your kickstand. Boom, there you go. Lift and lengthen through the spine, hinge, load that leg, and then push back up. Now, what can often happen, let's see if I can recreate it here. What can often happen is in order to find stability, we start to send the hip off to the side. We feel more stability when we do that. So can you notice if you're doing that? I'm going to give you this cue. Pull your hip of your working leg back behind your heel to the midline of the body. And that little activation of the hip is going to help you keep alignment and keep that work right in the hip. This is our last exercise, by the way. It's just an assisted or just a deadlift, a Romanian single leg deadlift with a little bit of help, a little kickstand in the background. Super juicy work. I love this work. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll hold on to some books or some blocks, take our hands off our hips, and that'll make it just a little bit more challenging. One more deadlift. This knee is soft, right? We're not locking that bad boy out. This knee is soft. Press yourself back up to the top. And we're 5 minutes over. I gotta end. I hate ending, but I have to end. Thank you so much for joining us today. Stick around if you have any questions.